want to address one line of the Kesuba. One line of the Kesuba that someone asked me last week. So I said the last line of the Kesuba, it says, Droike smachta, gleike tufse de shtura. It's not on a smachta, and it's not just a document, it's a document and not a smachta. Why do we write this in the Kesuba? Someone asked me. You know what a smachta is, Rabbi Sai? Smachta is like a bet. You know what I mean? If smachta is, you know what the best of smachta really means? You give me a down payment to take an apartment. And if say if you back out of it, you lose the down payment. If you don't back out of it, you don't lose the down payment. You know, that's called an asmachta, because I'm convinced I'm not going to back out and lose my $100. I just want you to, that's also called an asmachta. But here we write into the Kesuba, the loike smachta, the loike tifse de shtura. Now let me tell you something very, very interesting. The Rishonim ask, why is not every Kesuba and a smachta? You know why? Why should it be a smachta?
Nobody thinks they get divorced.
Exactly. Yes, the chassan is going to the wedding there, standing there under the chupa. He thinks that the shalom bayis is going to be. No one ever saw such shalom bayis. And my parents could argue. We will never argue. It's going to be like roses, and not even a havim and a shabbat. That's the natural, the way we think. So it's a good thing, right? It's good that you're positive about it. But the reality is, the Chazal, that's what made it Kesuba. I explained last week. The Chazal knew that, all of a sudden, you're married a little while, the Cheshik left already, and the Yitzhar is playing on you. But the Chazal wanted to make it difficult, she get divorced. But Al Kapunim, they write the smachta because it's really a smachta. Because the truth is, you never, if you get divorced. So no, that makes also. How does it make Durike Smachta? So the Gemara says because it's called, if you make a kinyan with a bezdin, then it's not a smachta. How can you enforce an asmachta? The Mishnah talks. People used to make deals with an asmachta deals. They want to make sure you do it. They want to They want to discuss it. Let me just take the simple case. A guy owes you money, $1,000. He paid you $500. And he's a verstepte crank. So he says to you, listen to me. I have to make a deal with you. This document, if I don't come and pay you the $500 in the 2 weeks, you can give back the document to the Malva and he'll be able to collect again the whole $1,000. I make a deal. You understand? He owes me $1,000, pays me $5. So we say, we'll give you the document. If he doesn't pay me the other $500 in 2 weeks, he's late, you give me back the whole document, and I'm going to collect another $1,000. So the Mishnah says two things. First, the Mishnah says there's no ribis, because it's a knas, not a ribis. We once spoke about this, right? That when it's a knas, a fine, there's no ribis. The second thing, what it calls an asmachta. And we pass him, we pass him, that he's not koina. He cannot make me pay $1,000 because I was convinced that's not going to happen. Anyone in business, when people are desperate, you want to take a loan, they think in 2 weeks by now, the wheels are going to turn backwards. I mean, the whole world is going to, So Al Kapunim, it's called an asmachta. So here too, this is called an asmachta.
How do they do it?
So how do you do it? It shouldn't be a power asmachta. So the Gemara says you make it bezdin. Choshev, you don't have to say in front of you, like Mekabel Kinyan Kili will be a bezdin. That takes away the problem of the smachta. So the MS, we really don't have to write this in. Because Chazal Machayev Kesuba, we write this in, it's called the Shifra de Shtura, just a fanciness of the star. And another person asked me last week, and then why do we write be Kinyone? Why do we need a Kinyan? So, I explained last week, there's a machlekes if a Kesuba is a deraisa or the Rabbanan. You know that. I said there's a Kamoy Rapsulis, Mohammed says Kesuba is a deraisa. It's important to understand. Even though the whole Kesuba, the Kesuba is deraisa, we don't know how much. Kamoy Rapsulis, 50 shkolim. But Mohammed says no, Kesuba is a Rabbanan. Some of the Shiurim hold everyone is waiting Kesuba Deraisa. The Torah doesn't say how much you should give. The Chazal made the money. There's really three shittas in the Shiurim, what it is. So we make a kinyan of...
What's the rationale to say that it's Deraisa?
Because it says in the Torah says when a person was mafata a girl, or was ma'anasa, kemoyer hapsilos, he has to pay her how much Kesuba is. Kemoyer hapsilos Kesuba. So you see the concept of Kesuba that exists. The Torah mentioned kemoyer hapsilos, means that there is a Kesuba.
But does that mean theoretically that you can't get married without a Kesuba?
No. That's a very good question what you just asked. Theoretical speaking, a very good question what you just asked. Even if I hold Kesuba Deraisa, that's a big machlokes. What does that mean? Like you just asked. Let's say they both agree, I don't want a Kesuba. A woman could be moichel dina mumanis. You know that. Let me explain. Magdim, but he asked, but let me just introduce a halacha. Person says to a lady, "Arayit mikideshesli." You're my wife. I'm an ass. With the condition, any shade ksis v'oina. You don't have to feed me, you don't have to clothe me, you don't have to be intimate with me. So we paskin that the dina mumanis, you don't have to feed me, clothe me, is chal. You don't have to feed and clothe me, I make my own money, it's chal, she can't change her mind. The oina, she could change her mind. Because that's called tzara de gufa, that's a physical pain. Cash, but you owe me the money, you could be moichel. But tzara de gufa, she could say to him, no, I changed my mind, and if you don't want to be intimate with me, you have to give me a divorce. She has a right for a get, because you cannot that one. So what you same thing with the Kesuba. If you hold Kesuba Deraisa, Menat Torah, you could most Rishonim. I don't remember all these. It's a long time ago. But most hold that is stam if we got married. But if you say like if you hold Mezoinis as Menat Torah, you know the last week I mentioned some Rishonim hold that you have to feed your wife Menat Torah Mezoinis. You have to feed her. Some male, if you have to feed her Menat Torah, same way you have to give a Kesuba Menat Torah. But you could, if she can be moichel Mezoinis, can moichel the Kesuba. The Rabbanan came and said, we don't allow you to be living with a lady without a Kesuba. Why? The Chazal did not want that she look like America. They, 2 years of married, then I fell out of love. Imagine, I had a guy come to me, a lady come to me, why are you getting divorced? I just fell out of love and I fell in love with another guy. So I said to her, what did you say? I missed. What?
He said guy.
Oh, no, it was like that. That's a goyish way, watching too much movies. That's what it is. Learns from the movie. The emissaries, the Chazal wanted, and ask anybody. My daughter just showed me an article written that one of the reasons why so many the next generation people are going flying out, as they would say. Show me a whole little written by a psychologist, is because parents are divorced or they have a horrible shalom bayis. My son's sister-in-law is a counselor for high-risk girls in Flatbush. 99% of the girls who are high risk are from divorced parents. It's a charbon noida. It's a charbon noida. Chazal knew this. Chazal said it's very clear. They didn't want, like the goyish welt, like I rather be married, not be married than fight. Don't fight so much. Once this is yours, finish, accept it. Don't argue. This is it. But Al Kapunim, Chazal didn't want you to get divorced. Very, very. They knew this is so. They were more practical than we were.
Danny's asking is just the right.
What?
Just the right. What Danny's asking.
Yeah, that Menat Torah, just like Mezoinis Deraisa, it's Deraisa. The fact that you cannot live with the lady, that's only a Drabanan.
So
that means the Rabbanan said. If you remember last week, I said what happened.
There's no getting married without a Chupa.
Right.
you
Right.
can't wait.
No, but
Like what? You can waive it.
Hang on.
Not only can't waive, we can't even say for a psula, I want to give less. The Chazal said psula should be Messiah Zuz, and almana should be Meyu. A lady that unfortunately who was not a psula, it's not Messiah, it's Mona. Bu'ula is Mona. Chazal, you're allowed to give more. The husband could be chayiv and more. I'll soon explain. We are machayiv ourselves more. We write in more, but less you can't. Why? Chazal wanted it should be difficult to get divorced.
Well, we would still admit, that if a person got married without a Kesuba,
The marriage is a marriage.
marriage is marriage.
Right.
The Issa is the Bia. It means, I said last week, I'm going to say this again. What happens, I've been by marriages twice, and the reading of the Kesuba aloud, and it's a mistake.
So that bia is forbidden?
So the Kesuba is possible. So it's a machlokes if you're allowed to go into the yichud room. So I was at a wedding, and there was and I just listened because I'm a rabbi. Everyone schmoozes with the Kesuba learning. I say it's good that everyone schmoozes doesn't realize the prenuptial agreement over here reading. It's not Hamas in Aramaic, but imagine it would be written in nice, clear English. But Al Kapunim, that it was written, he said it's tough, he said it's 5,700, he didn't say 773, 770. He left out the 3. The Kesuba is possible. What did you say? Oh, anyway, could be, it happened to me, a non-Lubavitch wedding. But he left out the 3. And I said it's possible. And I said, but you have to make it. And the problem was, it was ben Hashmoshes. So I said to him, Kabul Kenyan, we worked it out. So you have to be for the Yichud. But the Yeved, you could do the Yichud also, but you can't, because Chazal didn't want you to make a Yichud, because Yichud has to Yichud, Harui Rabia.
If they didn't change it, what would happen to the kids?
The kid's okay. I had to once remake a marriage, which twice, more than twice, where the marriage was not done. One time he was, unfortunately, a young Chabad Shliach, made a chasana, and 2 years later, he's showing to his friends his chasana, and he says, he was showing the video. Who's that? That's my uncle. He was the witness. So the guy came to me. I said, "No, I probably made a mistake." No, that was my uncle. The shliach over there, whoever was a young guy, didn't ask. Oh, this is yet? No problem. This is yet? No problem. So you have to remake the thing now.
But if the bia is forbidden, why are the kids?
That's only with the rabbanon to be forbidden. The children are not mamzerim, because it's if a person. Let's say when the rabbanon were mafkia the kedushin the mafreya. We spoke about it last week. Sometimes Chazal said there were mafkia. You know what that means? Certain times, marshal, and ed echad comes to say mez balach. Let me just make a simple thing. If ed echad says your husband died, so she's allowed to get married. How could she get married? The Torah says you need to aid them. The rabbanon says one ed comes and says mez balach. We're gonna undo. How you say in English? Undo. Retroactive. There's a word in English. Where the Christians say you are unvalidate, you annul the marriage. So you go to Mafreya, you annul the marriage. How could they do that? Because he was Mekadosh Kedas Moshe Yisrael. That's why they bought Kedas Moshe Yisrael. So Bekitza. So how's with the children now? What happened to the children? The kosher children. The fact was they were committed to each other. Chazal only wanted there should be a Kesuba, but if it happens now, the children are kosher children. There's no problem with that. So answering Daniel's question, that even though Kesuba men Torah, the Kesuba men Torah only makes it that you become obligated men Torah. Just like you get married to a lady, be paskin that if Machalik Rishonim and Machalik Sal to be paskin, behold mezonis men Torah, you're obligated to give mezonis and clothing men Torah. I want to say a quick thing that I saw at Tzemach Tzedek the other day. In Shulchan Aruch, it's a very interesting Zach. They made a tikkun in many kehillas in Europe that the one commissar the kedushin is the Rav, and if the Rav is not there, he has to have permission from the what's his name, from the Chashuba. Otherwise, the kedushin is not a kedushin. The marriage is not a marriage. So they made such why did they make? Because it became like hefkerveld, it became like trey. Trey is a hefkerveld. I had a guy, unfortunately, in my community, and he told me clearly that he lived with this lady when she was an Eish. She didn't get a get for a while, and they were dating each other. And I says, if you're telling me that, you're not allowed to marry her. You're not allowed to marry her. So he couldn't get. I wasn't going to marry him. And, so he went to another Rav, says, how come your Rabbi doesn't want to marry you? He tells him the truth. I'm not going to marry you. But for the right amount of money, he found someone to do it. You know, the guy claims he's Orthodox, but you know what I mean. The marriage didn't last, Baruch Hashem, because every bia would have been an asa. If a person's Mazana with the lady says ish, every bia is an issa deraisa. But I'm saying, you know, it's hefker, like any person could make misal the kiddushin.
Even once he's married, it's still...
Even once he's married, every bia is a what? The Torah says so.
And their kids?
Kids are kosher children, but they're pogim. A koyin shouldn't... But coming back, so the Tzemach Tzedek means a raya from that to remove that minig that he wants to explain what was the. Remember we spoke about this, about the copyrights, how they made a chayrim that you cannot reprint it for 10 years. So he asked, everyone is busy trying to explain what right do you have? So he explains it's like a hefker bez and hefker, just like they were mafkia the kiddushin, but it has to be that city only. One city cannot force another city. If the city made a chayrim, no one's allowed to print it, no one's allowed to do it, that's chal. But I can't enforce it from one city to another city. But you see, they made such corners that...
It's like that today in Crown Heights.
The what? I don't know.
You have to use one of their rabbanim to be inside a condition, or get their permission to use your own rab.
I want to explain, we got to, what does mean the Tosis Kesuba? You see in the Kesuba it says... The first sheet. Let me explain this, what this means. What they did was, you know, a kala brings in things with herself. Let me start explaining something. You know, the husband has a chiyuv to dress and clothe the kala. Everyone is moided by the wedding. There's some Gemara cases, the Gemara says, once they get engaged. Even once they get, but everyone agrees from the wedding. So when she brings in clothing, it's for his favor. It's for his favor that he has the clothing. And so Mamela, if a lady brings in clothing or jewelry, whatever it is, the emisaran, it's called, he would really have to buy the clothing, so it's called nechse malug. Nechse malug means, you know what nechse malug means? Nechse malug means like this. What happens? I was sitting in an Torah many years ago. She brought into the marriage a nice car, one of these European cars. I'm not don't ask me. A nice car, and he wanted the car. It was take a chutzpah, but he wanted the car. And I said to him, theoretically speaking, it's very possible. There's some opinions that not only she gets the car, you would have to give her the value of the car when you guys got married 6 years ago. It was either an Audi or one of these expensive cars, whatever it was. She would have.
But had he done that, then he would have been able to keep the car.
No. She brought into the marriage the car.
Right.
And there's a machlokes, how do we look at the things that she brings in? Is it nechse malug? A nechse tzon. Nechse malug means that I give back whatever you brought in, but even it disintegrated. You know, the car disintegrated clothing. You take as is back. Nechse tzon barza means he took upon himself that when you bought in the car was worth 6 years ago, kach v'kach, whatever the brand new car then, how much it was worth, that's how much you have to give me back if we get divorced. If he gives the get, it's a big nafkem. If she wants out of the marriage and that's a big nafkem. But if he wants the get, he is obligated to pay how much the value of the car was then, how much the clothing, new clothing then. You know, today, a second-hand clothing has come out no value. You know, the Bachar always asked me, you know, that my clothing ripped, and this is what happened. You know, and I says, you know, yeah, the guy has to pay you. How much you were able to sell a shirt in what is it called, garage sale? How much can you sell a shirt already? On eBay, how much can you sell a second-hand shirt on eBay? You know, even such a shirt, you know, even have a nice shirt. A second-hand shirt is worth the bobkis. You know, anyway, it's coming back. So that's called nechse tzon barza. So we write they made it kick. We don't know when it started. That we write into the Kesuba that the chassan is makabel himself. She brought in 50 shkolim, 100 shkolim worth of silver, even though she didn't bring it in. But we say approximately, they put it, and he's adding, and that's Messiah's is. That's besides the Messiah's is of the Kesuba. That's how it was. That's what many hold. I made a cheshbon today. The biggest chumrah of the cheshbon I made today, the highest level will be today's worth value of silver. Let me just see quickly. The highest cheshbon would be 50. How much would it be? $43,000 and $906. If you that means both chelik Kesuba, the highest sheet of the silver. You know what I'm saying? We wanted 43 down. The other shittas will be babkis. The lowest shitta will be 2,931.
What does the value of the silver have to do with the
Chazal said, the Chazal, we don't know how much he brought in. We didn't make a cheshbon.
Right.
So they used to make a standard. He's makabel in 100 shkolim. Look at this Kesuba. Kabel sach, Messiah mezuz, zekukim, pure silver. Mei zekukim. And she's going to give another maize cooking. You know, it's like she would have brought in 100 and he added 100. So it's 200. So it's remember even last week I spoke, it's the value of 200 zuzan
I'm
pure silver.
saying that's where the value comes from.
Yes, that's the value.
Theoretically, she's bringing in 100.
Maybe she's bringing less, maybe she's bringing more.
Yeah.
The theoretical, that's why they made it. We Ashkenaz, not the Sfardim and not they have a whole different day. Sfardim wrote in whatever they want to write. We Ashkenaz have an old minig for 1,000 years already that we had a standard Kesuba, and that's what we write in. That because we never sat down at the wedding, make a cheshbon, clothing, this clothing, that clothing. We know this is the cheshbon. Even though today, maybe it's a lot more worth. Maybe a lady brings in to Konta Shittas, for sure a lady brings in more.
So do you advise a woman who's getting married, let's say you have marriages where there's a very, very wealthy woman, she's marrying a guy in the community, do you advise her, like, hey, by the way, it's way more than the Messiah Zos?
I don't advise it, but you should know, honest thinking, that after dealing with as my beard is getting wider and I'm getting older, I'm not so against the prenuptial agreement what the YU does. I have 3 cases now in community. They don't want to give a get.
They don't or they
Don't.
The man or the woman?
The man.
She has money.
No, doesn't want to give a get. One is, it's always the unhealthy one who doesn't want to give a get. The rule of the game is. But doesn't want to give a get. So one I convinced, hopefully there was a get today or tomorrow. On Shabbos, I met him 5 o'clock in the morning in the mikveh. Started talking to him. Figured I'll give her an hour away of my precious time. Maybe he'll, maybe. And the other be stam. So, you know, but people get nervous when they sign knowing it was upheld. And someone told me, someone told me in Connecticut court, I was once said it was upheld. Guy didn't want to give a get, and it turned out to be $900,000, he told me, someone. Was it less than that? $90,000? That he didn't want to give a get, so accumulated after 3 years an enormous amount of money, and it was upheld in the Connecticut court. He has to pay it because he didn't come to Bezdin, you know, the prenuptial.
That doesn't.
They agreed. It's a good start. Originally they made the start wasn't a good start.
Right.
But now I read the start, they made it good up Halacha.
What does the YU thing say?
They write into it that if you call to Bezdin, you don't show up to Bezdin for every day. It's $100. I forgot how much it is. $100 you don't show up.
But it doesn't force you to get it. It just says
you have to pay up. If not showing up, you have to pay $100 a day.
You just have to show up.
But that's enforceable in court.
And that is enforceable. They always question it's going to be enforceable in court, and it became enforced in court. The court, that's a great victory, as we say, because the massa it makes a fear in a man. You know what I mean? You should, anyways, that's. Someone has done that.
But I was asking about if a woman's bringing in property that's very valuable, she bring in $3 million. She's a schlepper.
I don't tell them. Only second marriages, because people get so nervous when they make a prenuptial agreement. It's just frightening. People say, "Who knows? It's bad luck."
Why did you write that in here?
We Ashkenazim don't change the Kesuba. We have a manik. So they want to, so that Rabbi Yashav held that we Ashkenazim don't change his Kesuba, that he held not to make a prenuptial because that's part of our minig. Others disagree. That's not part of the minig.
Can't have an addendum.
No, but it's a separate. They make now separate.
Oh, that's why you're.
It's a separate document.
Did they mention this by Feinstein, or they didn't have it at that time?
They started talking about it, I don't know.
Is someone allowed to put their assets, a woman?
I want to answer with his question. 1 second. The reason why I don't say, I leave it up to them. But second marriages, I tell them all to make a prenuptial agreement. So I tell you a cute story. I had a lady, he was second, for him it was a second marriage. She was an older girl, and they were getting married. And he says to her, writes a prenuptial agreement that if I divorce you after the first year, I'll give you $100,000, $200,000, maximum $1 million. She was so insulted. I says, why are you insulted? He's willing to give you $1 million. I mean, he's a rich person, and he will help you. You know what I mean? That don't be insulted. Baruch Hashem, the marriages, if it works out, then it's good. It works out. Okay. Anyways, so if someone's asking something.
If she takes her assets, puts them in a blind trust, according to law in most states, he can never, if they get divorced, it doesn't become community property. Is it a halacha? I mean, she's taking assets of hers and basically removing it from the marriage.
If he agrees, it's okay. There's no problem.
No, halacha is not. I mean, I say a prenuptial no, but it's
no, if she does it and he knows about it, then it's a.
It's more than just the same process. She's just totally.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong. That's okay. Part of the Kesuba, let me just quickly say, part of the Kesuba is that he has to, it doesn't say in the Kesuba all the Tanoim. One of the things of the Kesuba is he has to feed his wife, and many Rishonim learn to feed his children after 6 years old is a din in the Kesuba. If a person had out of wedlock a child? Child of wedlock. So, Minat Torah, he only has to support it till 6 years old. Afterwards, there's no chiyuv. The chiyuv to give mizonis after child is 6 is a tanai in the Kesuba. It's very interesting. We don't have it written in the Kesuba, but the Chazal said you're obligated to redeem it. Chazal said you're obligated to heal her. That's not mizonis. That's the Chazal said many chayuvim, which we didn't write into the Kesuba. So mizonis for a child who doesn't have was not married, that after 6 years he has no chiyuv. It's not a chiyuv at Tanai Kesuba. The other ones, other children, Tanai Kesuba. He has to feed the children because that's part of the Kesuba.
The age when you have to stop feeding.
Dina de Gemara, after Bar Mitzvah, you don't have to stop feeding. The Moshe just says nowadays it doesn't apply. It's just 18, 19, because that's normal.
40.
Someone said to me at a shir, I once said, he says, Rabbi, how about 40? I have a 40-year son, I'm still supporting him. We don't have to, I just said to him.
Moshe said until 18?
18, 19, I think, I forgot what he said, something like that. But that's a big chiddush. When you come to the Torah, if a guy says, we had a guy, he said, I want din Torah, I want din shabadin. So, we remember talking, Moshe, not everyone agrees to the Moshe. You can't, mechayev, but we were mechayev in the end anyways.
So it's talking about if the woman's second marriage, she brought a child into the marriage?
Yeah, he's not mechayev to if he didn't write that I'm going to support, he's not his obligation at all.
That's not even presumed.
That's not even presumed in the Kesuba. We're talking about his children with her is at Nai Kesuba.
So the Sfardim that adjust the amount of the Kesuba is similar to the prenuptial that the RCA?
Right. But no, the RCA has a trick. It makes a fear in the husband. It says if you don't come to Bezdin, once you call, every day you delayed, I think it's $100 knas. 150?
Either side.
Either side, right. Either side. So that makes a guy very nervous. And it works. In their community so far, there's very few agunas when they sign this.
And then when they put it in the Sfardim that put it in, the amount of Kesuba is only to the benefit of the wife.
It's only benefit of the body. If he wants to get, if she wants to get, there's no. It's a big. Many people don't. Many rabbis don't realize it. If the lady wants to get, there is no Kesuba. How often? Whatever her things that she brought in, or if he wrote the house in both names, half the house is on hers. But if she just because the things that the clothing that he bought her, if a lady wants out of a marriage, believe it or not, she doesn't even take the shirt on the back if she was just a housewife till now.
Do you take into consideration like California law that says,
No.
50-50 property?
No, that's against the Torah. We don't follow the Mechisa Din in that case.
We'll see concerns.
So if a lady, once told someone, and I told her, Shiva, he was trying to help a lady, says, he doesn't want to get divorced. Do you know if she wants a divorce, she gets nothing? How could it be? I took her to Shulchan Aruch, I showed him the Rambam. Because he bought her, she was her mother. If she worked, I'll soon say that's a machlokes, I'll soon say that, but if she didn't work, she was just a mother to the children, and did her chores, and lived at home, the shirt, she has to pay for the shirt that she leaves with. Because he bought her everything belongs to him. Even the jewelry that he bought her, and the clothing that he bought her, she has to leave behind.
We're talking about in all cases, even if he's abusive and like a really...
Even though he's abusive and she says, Mo Salai, great, you can leave.
The exception is if he doesn't follow the
required duties,
right?
No, even if he
doesn't.
If he doesn't do his chelik, but let's say this case was, she wanted out. She claimed, it turned out it wasn't true. After the Torah we saw notice her, but she claimed that he's abusive and okay, I said to I remember telling that she was trying to help her. That it doesn't matter. She gets nothing. You know what I mean? Let's say it's 100% true. He's not treating her nicely. He screams at her, hits her. Let's say even hits her. Okay, she has a right to leave the marriage, but she gets nothing. Now, what happens? She did work. Remember, I told you there's a big machlokes. The Mishnah says a lady could say in the Kesuba, could say a very interessant thing. A lady could say. A lady could say in the Kesuba that I am willing. Don't support me. It works this way because the husband supports her. The masa yudei, what she earns, goes to the husband. You understand what I'm saying? Since he gives her food, clothing, shelter, pays her medical bills, so whatever she works belongs to the husband. Now what happens, which nowadays many women earn a lot more than the husbands. There are plenty of women, in my family, some of my daughters earn a lot more than the husbands. So what is over there? So big machlokes. Some learn, even then, she would have to say clearly, listen carefully, that, this is my money, I don't need you to feed me, it's all mine.
Before the marriage?
No, any time in the marriage. So she starts learning. Some other Rishonim learn, some case the Mishnah Melech and the other Rishonim. The other Rishonim learn that that she's not going to say it because it's going to rock the marriage. Imagine you come home, I have my own bank account. And, it's gonna rock the marriage, as we say. So Mamela, but it's like he would have said it. So if a woman earns a lot more than the thing, so the money, this is very much so.
She doesn't even have to say it.
Doesn't have to say it. Right, and according to this opinion, the money that she earned, it comes to get, if she has money, it's very hard to say that, especially she grabbed the money. Usually when there's trouble, they grab their money already. So it's hers. She's teufus. I think I once said it over here. Twice people asked me this. One person asked me, her friend, she's a Klei Kodesh. Her husband is a Rabbi in the yeshiva, in the local yeshivas, and her friend is making the first child marrying off, and he sent her a ticket. She tells her, don't tell my husband that I sent you the ticket. So the Halacha lady says, how could I do this? She's stealing from my husband. So I asked her, tell me. She says, no, my friend has her own business, opened a shop in Flatbush, and she's earning a lot more than her husband. She didn't want to tell the husband how much she's earning to keep the shalom bayit. She's a right to, she could say Kimli, she's a right to send you a ticket. I had even a worse case where a guy is a kippah seruga and he didn't want his son-in-law to learn in Koilel. He should go work, you know what I mean? And his wife, the son-in-law was learning, and she was, and she called me up. She says, am I doing the right thing? She says, how much do you earn? I earn a lot more than how you say keep in English? Not earn than my keep, a lot more. She says, then you could...
the mother-in-law was supporting the son-in-law.
Yeah. And the husband didn't want, he had no idea how they're living under. Truthfully, she funneled money to her daughter. Wanted for all the while. So that's a halacha, because if she earns a lot more...
That only works because she's earning her own
money, right. She's earning more than the keep. So she could say, the keep is going to be, she told me clearly, ask if you send the money, $1,000 a month, she told me she sends them. It says, don't worry, I earn a lot more money than my keep. then it's okay. You know? So someone asked me, I once said it to a rabbi, what are you going to do? Her husband going to find out. She says, Rabbi Tauber said. She says, let her come to me. If you learn that, the Shalom Bayis doesn't mean that, you disagree with your wife. Shalom Bayis means you disagree peacefully. I always tell this to young people when they get married. You're going to disagree. You know why? You disagree with yourself. Yesterday you thought one thing, the next day you get up in the morning and say, what was I thinking yesterday? Everybody in the Shalom. You don't scream at yourself. It's you don't scream at yourself. Shalom Bayis means you learn how to disagree peacefully. There's no way you can always agree with your wife. It's a chaloimus. That's maybe in the movies, maybe. Maybe.
If he wants to get a divorce and he runs with the money, is that stealing? If she makes more money?
It's not. That's a machlokes. So he could say kimli if she took the money. If he took the money, he could say kimli.
It's not clear if he's stealing.
The only question that I had for many years is this way. There was a case in L.A. The guy did terrible, she had pictures of him doing terrible things. Cheated on her, the shiksa, who knows what. And he didn't want to come to Torah, and she let him know that she has the pictures. She let him know. So Mamela, he settled, and he paid her out a lot of money. That means it would have gone to Din Torah straight. She was a housewife, she was very wealthy, very matzliach, and she would have gotten babkas because she wanted out of the marriage. She really wanted out of them because, I once mentioned if a lady the husband, she's not the lady, husband, she's, it's very painful for the lady, but halacha, she can't demand a get. People don't understand it, but that's the halacha shel Elchonon. If she was mezana, she's also a bala, finished. The marriage ends. But if it's the other way around, he cheated, but she wanted out of the marriage. But the only reason he gave all this, he didn't want to come to the Torah. So it bothered me sometimes. Then I saw the pasuk say, no, look, you could come to the Torah, well, everything will be on the table. If you don't want it, I want, then give me so much money. It's not bribing.
So blackmail is not also basically.
It's not a blackmail. Are we going to come to the Torah? Bezdin has to listen to. Yeah, but but you have a right in Bezdin to say why I want out, and she, you have a right. Maybe Bezdin is going to say you have a right to divorce, and then maybe more money you should get. He didn't want that, then he paid her. He paid her a huge house and $4 million in cash. Not bad. You want
It's swear that it's okay for the husband to cheat.
Did I say?
Okay,
Everybody
okay,
I'm going to misquote it now.
For the woman to cheat,
Tauber said.
no, for the woman to cheat, the husband can't be.
The Torah says if a woman was mezana, then she's usa lebala. Finish. Svara, because the svara, I don't have a svara. Svara is like this.
A man was allowed to have 2 wives. A woman can't have 2 husbands.
The nature of a man is, the nature of a man that he wants many women. That's the nature. No matter how lucky you are, you have a great shalom bayis, you fantasize always of another woman. That's the Yetzer Hara, let's be honest. But a woman doesn't have this. A woman likes to be, she has good shalom bayis, she's not interested in anyone. The shalom bayis is good, she's devoted to her husband. A man is made it that way. Yankim had 4 wives. You can have more than 1 wife. Because we are different. I know that we are. How you say we're different briyas. Me b'fnatzmai.
Back to the woman with the pictures. Just let's say she's shown best, but she can't say to him, "I'm going to show your show," or else give me a.
No, that's true. That's blackmail. But she says, look, I want to go to Bezdin.
But she can't say.
Yeah, then she's mamash eganu. But here she said, I want to go to Bezdin.
1 second.
She said she has a right to go to Bezdin and tell Bezdin that I just.
From a standpoint, blackmail is illegal.
It's
what's the issue here?
Yes, it's an
This
issue.
guy acted like a pig, and now she.
Who says so? I mean, who says so? Let's say. I mean, that's.
I'm saying this can't be the case. She really has evidence.
Yeah, but Al Pi Torah, he didn't do anything. Let's say he had a mistress. Let's just say.
Yeah.
So and let's say make it as a she went to the mikveh for him. Let's just say such things happen to mistress. And Elamasa, he was over a yichad d'rabbanan. He was over a yichad d'rabbanan, no question about it. And it's a terrible design for his wife. But that has nothing to do. She cannot demand a get Al Pi Torah for that.
Correct. But if she has evidence.
Yeah, so what?
She could destroy his reputation.
So what? So she's blackmailing him.
Yeah.
So that's not the.
I'm not saying that legally that's okay. I'm
Yeah,
sure there's-
yeah, that's not correct. That's like, if you, it's like the mafia. I could frighten you and say, if you don't pay me $1,000 a month, the windows might be broken out. He's allowed to do that?
Theoretically,
I'm saying you're allowed to do that. The mafia used to work in New York. If you don't pay us 10, shmita cost, how do you say, and the people who didn't pay.
But you see the other way around, where there's a guy who's like a terrible person. His wife wants to get out, and she wants a get. He says, yeah, you know what, maybe I'll give you a get if your father gives me a few nursing homes, and like the guy's got a whole price list of what he wants in order to give the get. So that's okay.
It's
but
not
the other way
okay.
around
Who said it's
doesn't.
okay? Who said it's
I'm saying
okay?
that's practically what's done out
Yeah,
there.
because he's a Russia. That's why the whole get thing. That's why they want to make a prenuptial. That doesn't make it okay. It's horrible. There's a case in New York where the father doesn't want to give, and 5 years she's an aguna. This famous, I was told by the guy from the OU organization, I don't know which one of the cases. The father's wealthy, but there's no end what he's going to ask.
Right.
Yeah, that's a horrible thing. I do know people paid out. I know my community. I know a case. A guy paid $1 million. But doesn't mean it's right.
No, but you said this lady got $4 million, but how?
She didn't say nothing. She said, I want the get, and I'm going to explain to Bezdin why. Because maybe the Bezdin will say, I'm right. She claimed that maybe he got AIDS. She slept around with chicks. Says, what do I know? You know what I
Did
mean?
she say I have these pictures?
I have these pictures. He probably knew
That's not a
that.
threat? That's not a
I'm coming to Bezdin. Let's come to Bezdin.
It's an underlying threat.
if she has proof that he is over Ashish, isn't that over Das and she?
No.
That's over Das?
No. Can't demand a get. We spoke about this. Can't demand. She spritzes dick, you could, but if he spritzes dick, you can't.
No, but over Das, it's
No.
often dirty,
It's over das. No. We paskin, if he's a Machal Shabbos, you can't force him to give a get.
What is over Das?
If the lady is over al das, she doesn't follow the mitzvah because he has to rely on her to go into the mikveh. He has to rely on that she's not going to mizana. He has to rely on kashas. Once upon a time, you relied on your wife on everything. How do you know she went to the mikveh? She's a pritza, so maybe she's fooling around with other men. So that's why there's averes adas. But him, Ibi Paskin, there is one shitta, but the Remo Paskin, even is a Machal Shabbos, you cannot demand a get. I know it doesn't sound fear, I mean.
Very anti-feminist.
Yeah, but that's what the Torah says.
And the prenup is like a civil agreement?
It's a civil agreement.
Both of them signed?
Both of them signed. I made a wedding where she was a second marriage, and he held back the get for a while, so the father had to pay out. But his father was wealthy, anyways, and she had a right to ask for a get. He was a strange guy. Nothing to talk about. The bottom line is that she made a prenuptial agreement with the second marriage.
One last thing, it says he has to give a shake sus or no. Who decides what sus is? If she wants to go shopping.
So it says, yeah, ksus means what the normal people address.
Where, on June Street?
No, you don't. Do you live in June Street?
No, it's
normal according to him.
According to him, that's normal. She knew. Now that's a big machlokes in the Gemara. But one second, there's a big machlokes in the Gemara. But let's say she knew that you are all going to be a shliach. Let's say she knew you're not going to have money, so she took upon herself. She's only going to support what a shliach could afford. She agreed to that.
I'm sure this comes up in bed and gets every day.
But when it happens, when the case is out of control, that's not the problem. Anyway, it has to be. But let's say he once was, if she was once wealthy, she became poor. She could demand it, but that doesn't change anything. Any other questions? Bottom line, the Chazal I always say the Chazal with the wisdom said, they said, we know that this is what happens by a get. People they're excited, and then the novelty wears off. Remember, getting a get will cost you a lot of money. So today, we Ashkenaz, I explained last week, we have a loophole, but since we cannot give a get bal korcha, so she feels secure in the marriage. What the Kesuba wanted, that the lady should feel secure in the marriage, the Rishonim say. Today, a woman feels quite secure. He just can't pick himself up and give me a get just like that.
Because of the Kesuba.
Because of Kesuba, can't give a get bal korcha. I don't know if I ever told you this story. There was up north, there was a story where a guy was convinced that he was going to get ahead to, somehow at the mayor. And he was worth $120 million. He was convinced that, and first she wanted Shalom. She really wanted to have children together. He fell in love with one of his secretaries or one of his workers, whatever it was. The end is it costed him, he had to give away $80 million. He thought, of course, I fell out of love, I fell in love, and I'm going to get it. No one was going to give him a heter. He went to the RCA. Well, what kind of business is this? I hope his was worth it for him, the second marriage. It's always the guy.
She wouldn't touch him, he's poor.
Can we finish the lashon of the actual Kesuba here?
So it says another thing in the Kesuba. The kibbutz alai, it says, Kibbulai al yarsu besrua, my yarshim, the spura mikol shvar arig nechsam, all my good, all my good assets, the kinunet istet chayska shvay dikun usanu lemik. Let me explain what this means. How could you see every chassan under the chuppah, especially nowadays, is a poor guy. What is his worth already today? What do you have standing under the chuppah?
Mark Zuckerberg, you've got $11 billion.
Yeah, but the bottom line, most of us had nothing. So you machayiv yourself, but how's the chiv chal? It says anything that I will buy. Usalamikna. So Gemara says a big chiddush that you can make such a tanai. You make a shibit and a duva shloi buloilam. I cannot be koyin a duva shloi buloilam. You know that. It's a simple story. I don't know who it was. A Chabad guy came to me to sell his chometz. He was flying to Australia for Pesach. So I told him, I'm not going to sell you chometz. I'm going to buy your chometz from you. I'm not going to remember to make a special mechira, Australia time. So I'm buying, all your chometz is mine. But I told him, do not buy new chometz. Because the new chometz you're going to buy, I cannot buy from you now. So do v'shlei b'lo'ilam. If you buy any chometz, you must get rid of it. But I could only buy the chometz that's right now, it's yours. So I cannot tell you I'm buying the futures. The futures, there's no such thing in the term. But the Gemara says you could make a shibit out of a shloi b'lo'ilam. That means at the chasana, you pick up the gartel, you said that there's a ksibit lo lien, is if any property that I acquire, or any metaltrin that I acquire, there's a shibit on those things. Even though it's shloi b'lo'ilam. And so shloi b'lo'ilam didn't exist yet. It means I cannot sell you something I don't have, but I can make a lien on something I don't have. So as soon as I buy a house, there's an automatic lien on the house from the Kesuba.
Can you set a date of enactment, for when the purchase actually goes down?
How does that work?
Like divorce. What? No, I'm talking about I'm talking about in the case of the matzah. In the case of the chametz, you set a date. That the
I bought it from now. I've known
it
it
now, but couldn't you just set it in 3 weeks and the document signed and it'll be enforced in 3 weeks?
He came to me right before he was flying. Pesach was Monday night. He was flying Motzei Shabbos to Australia.
Right.
He arrived Erev Yontiv in the morning. But I told him, I'm buying the chametz from you. I'm not going to remember to make a separate. I will make it a month before, a week before. But coming back, so this is what it means in the Kesuba. The Kesuba means there's a lien, the property that I have, that I will acquire. And that's chal the lien. If you didn't...
How many things is the lien chal?
Every property that you bought since then, the lien is on the Kesuba. Let's say the Kesuba's value is $15,000. And she could go to any property. If he comes to pay with property, he has a right to pay Zabidi as Kesuba is. But there's a lien. There's always a lien on the property. It means if he sold the properties, that any of the property that's there's automatically lien.
Just the amount of.
And even on the metaltalim.
So the key is that even though he has no money, he can still say, hey, I owe you possibly $200 if we were to get divorced, and it still works.
What does that mean? I understand what does that mean?
Meaning, the husband that's getting married, if he's broke, how's he?
How could he? Because there's a lien on anything that he's going to ever buy, there's an automatic lien on it.
And if ultimately he has no assets and he doesn't have the money to pay it out.
So that's a machlokes rishonim. He's asking a good question. What happens? A guy comes to a get. He wants to divorce his wife. He has no money to give the Kesuba. So the Rashba brings a very interesting Gemara Yishalma. Yeah, this is a very interesting Shalma Yankee. Yeah, this Shalma brings a nice story. Rabbi Yossi Aglili came to the Beis Medrash and he was very depressed. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Azari asked him, "Why are you depressed?" She says, "I have a wife, mar memuvis, better than death." She said, "Give her a get." I can't afford to pay the Kesuba. I don't have a Kesuba. I can't afford it. So a few weeks later, again, Rabbi Eliezer ben Azari sees her basically again very, very depressed. I said, "Why are you depressed?" I said, "Didn't I tell you?" So he says, you know what? Rabbi Eliezer ben Azari was very, very wealthy. Think what it says? And he gave her, he says, "I'll pay the Kesuba." And he got divorced. Now let me finish the story. To finish the story was that one time, so he got divorced, so she got married to the mayor of the city. And then the mayor of the city became blind. He had no panosa. So they went schnorring. Pshitoi. So she would help him go from door to door. So he came to a street and never wanted to go to the street that Rabbi Yossi Aglili lived because she was that embarrassed. But one time she didn't tell him why she doesn't take him down the street because the ex-husband's living on the street. So they started fighting in the middle of the screen. There was koilis ibrokim. You know what koilis ibrokim? They were screaming. They were fighting. So basically he ran out. What's going on? And he sees his ex standing and fighting, and he understands what they're fighting about. So he said to her, "Go home. I'm going to support you." It goes even on your first wife. You know, I mean, it's such a bizyonis. I'll support you. Don't go schnorring. Support his first wife. But anyways, the Rashba wants to bring a right from the Gemara. Why did Shmuel divorce his wife? Rabbi Yossi Aglili. He couldn't afford the Kesuba. I owe you the money. Someone to learn from his araya, you can only give a get if you are willing to give the cash. If you can't give the cash, you can't give a get. The Rashba, the other Rishonim, I remember which Rishonim, they say if he was going to give a get, they're going to take his house away. It's not going to have where to live. It's not like nowadays, you know, you find a rental, you know, I'll rent a condo.
You can't give the cash, you don't give the get?
You can't, there's so many Rishonim hold, if you cannot,
Oh no,
maybe
he wants to get.
he wants to divorce the get.
What's that? So according to the second opinion, it says he was worried he didn't want to lose his house. The bottom line is, if he wanted to give a get and he didn't have any money, he didn't have any house, could he give the get?
Yes, according to that opinion, you could. You just owe it.
And then is there interest? Is there any?
No interest. Whenever you have money, you have to pay.
That doesn't seem very productive, according to that opinion. He said it was nothing. Okay.
That's not true. Bezdin, those days, Bezdin would come to the house and take everything away just the barely needs. Bezdin would give him one shirt, one pants, no Shabbos clothing. They would give him just the bare minimum. Just mamish the bare minimum. It wasn't that way, just the bare minimum. So anyways, that's what it means. Kanun is the kulshan. That's the chai means that the
also, there's a machlokes whether being married to a bad woman is reason to go to
when it says don't divorce her because you go straight to Olam Haba.
So one opinion that says why not? They say you should divorce her. The other opinion that says yes, this is because maybe he can't afford the Kesuba.
Can't afford the Kesuba.
Or maybe he has kids. Those are the reasons.
Right.
So can't
Yeah, but so that's some machlokes that are showing. What does it mean he can't afford the Kesuba? He's going to take away his house. He's not going to place he's going to live, or he's not allowed to divorce if he can't pay the Kesuba. That's machlokes that are showing. That's some machlokes that are showing how we pass him. See, the Chazal wanted very much not to get divorced. Very, 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 very strongly. Because the truth is, if you can't get divorced, you'll make peace with the situation. That's the truth. Then did we skip anything? Just the rest is it repeats itself, the Kesuba. Any other questions about the Kesuba? There's a famous Noidi Yehuda. It happened in this town, but he was a Sfardi. Happened in this town that a guy wanted to give a get to his wife. She wouldn't take a get. So a Rav, who deserves to give patch him, he made a get, and they threw it into her house. To aid him, they were, so since then they don't accept this guy's gittin. He made a get, Balkoch. And Sfardi, Shulchan says he could, but the Sfardim have a minig already for many generations. They follow the Ashkenazim. They don't make a get Balkoch. They don't have a chedim der beni gershon, like we have a chedim, but they don't do it. But the Rabbi Yehuda said if a person is oive chedim der beni gershon, and he makes a shliach for the get, the shliach becomes bottled because it's aveda. To give a get Balkoch is an aveda. The story in Rabbi Yehuda was this very wealthy person wanted to divorce his wife, and she didn't want to take a get, and he got two people. He gave a shliach a get, grabbed in the middle of the market, and grabbed hold of her, and took the get, and he said to the lady, "All right, be gracious," and put it into her bosom. You say, make sure that was she, and it's her. So this was an uproar. The Rabbi Yehuda says he was a shliach, and it was a shliach to give a get bar korcha, so it's an aveda. Ein shliach dvar aveda. The shliach become batlish is an eisish. And this was the Rabbi Yehuda was arguing with Kol B'nai Doida, but he held on to his, which is an eisish.
It was not a valid get.
It's not a valid get.
And they were saying it was a valid get?
Some wanted to say that, but the evidence it's a valid get.
The husband wasn't the one who gave it to
Not the husband. He made a shliach,
Okay.
and the shliach put it into, and that's why it is not.
If he had
The get is a get. He was over the chedim the Beni Gershon. He's in chedim, but the get is a get.
But they have to put him in cher.
He's automatic chedim.
So in the case that happened here, that you're referencing, did this rabbi only tried to do it, or it would only have theoretically worked because it was a Sephardi?
Yeah,
why.
that's why.
He
Yes.
wouldn't have done it with an Ashkenazi, you're saying?
No, he did it with the Sfardi. Did it with the Sfardi, and he was the shliach. The rabbi himself was the shliach. The husband didn't want to go there to the house. He had a restraining order, I think, against him. But they went to the house, and they threw the get into the house. But Lamasa,
And once it's in her house, so then it's in her
get is a get.
reshus,
So
therefore-
the get is a get. But,
Chaser, mishtamer.
yeah, but first of all, there were fuming because the meaning is we don't throw it into the house. We make sure to give it in the hand. We don't do it. That's a meaning even by Khan Svardim. So they were very, very angry. They're bottom and Etzisol. They don't accept anyone who's
Done in
getting
Eretz Yisrael, or was it-
done right here in this
And then
neighborhood.
there's something
This
like-
neighborhood, not far. What's this neighborhood called? No, they're wealthy or someplace. Not Beverly Hills. Beverly Wood, the guy that she lived in.
Wait, so if a woman refuses to accept a get today, we can't do a Balkarma because they're Gershon, but ultimately.
I had to make a bonum. But you only get a het to made a bonum if there's a real reason. There's no, we just made a het to made a bonum. I just made a het to made a bonum. What was the het to made a bonum? He's a second marriage, got married, nothing against the Persians over here, got married to a Persian lady. The marriage didn't work out, and she disappeared. And she let a message once, if you want to get divorced, it's $1 million or $2 million she wanted. And he can't even locate her. I tried to call the brother hung up on me. So we had to make a bottom now. It's a second marriage and just didn't work out.
May is very complicated.
Why is it
You
complicated?
get a vote from 3 different companies.
What's it so complicated?
How does it work? Can you
And
explain?
they all have to look up the case and they all.
Oh, what's
have
so
to, like,
complicated?
sign and agree.
Days of the internet.
There was a famous one 30 years ago. the two
It's
persons
not,
were like-
that question was, it was a valid, because it wasn't valid. The man, normally, she's a Persian, and I don't know how from she was. Normally, the Ashkenazim, as soon as she gets the wind as a het to made a bun, she takes the get. Very rarely. She knows that he's going to get married, so why should she look like a fool?
How do you deal with civil law issues? Well, actually, you probably divorce without the presence, that's true.
That's civil law, you
No,
know.
because if let's say someone has
Yeah, he could get married
He
religiously.
doesn't actually divorce her civilly, then he could be prosecuted.
Yeah, but if he doesn't get married civilly, just gets religiously, it's also okay.
Can you explain how it works for me, everybody?
Chazal, the Beni Gesher said that if you get 100 Rabbanim signing that you have a right to take another wife, then you should take, we don't make a het made one bakoch, but a het made one to take another wife, because he was the one who planned not to take another wife. Why did he do it? Because it was hefkerwelt. People didn't want to get divorced. So they would just marry another one, ignore the first wife, run up with another lady. It was just a disaster. Irresponsible. So he made this chedem. But he realized that he can't marry two wives. But he realized that very often, if she's sick, she's mentally not well. I have another case where I met a guy, his wife, at the age of 32, was put in an institution. She developed dementia. He couldn't even give her a get if he wanted to. And he had to get married. He had young children at home. So that's what he made it. He also made it whenever, our women were mentally not well, emotionally not well. They're shigasa. You can't live with them.
It's 1,000 years old or so?
Yeah, it's over 1,000 years old already. Ben Gershon lived a long time ago.
Just past 1,000, no? You just didn't know it.
Yeah, that's a question. If it's the chayrim, it's the minig, it's a big machlokes in the paskin.
Suppose somebody has one of these artistic kasubas, and the names over time fade out, and it's done whatever.
Yeah, I had someone brought me a ksuba. Someone bought me a stunning ksuba, and because he had in his house, the sun shining in it, the signatures faded. He looked at his video, and he looked who the two Rabbanim signed it, and happened to be two Rabbanim. He went to them and signed it, and he comes and tells me, "Guess what I did?" Comes to me one day in the shul, "Guess what I did? I'm married 17 years, and it faded. I went back to the Rabbanim." I said, "What? Can't sign now, re-sign the ksuba. You have to rewrite the ksuba the irchasa." So I told them just to cross out the Edom and made a new ksuba. I mean, unfortunately, these two Rabbanim didn't know. You just can't re-sign a ksuba that.
So you're saying you got a new ksuba?
The new ksuba, it's called a ksuba that was lost.
It has to be exact language.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. But it's,
That one's a painting, the new one will be a ksuba.
like ksuba, that's not that's.
It references the fact that it's a new one, right?
Yeah, it says clearly that this is a ksuba derechasir, and you have to. Yeah, but you can rewrite. But this is true. This is not the first time. You stopped doing it. About 30 years ago, it was in style to have these beautiful paintings. I mean, this was a stunning painting the guy bought me.
You don't need the same original agent.
No.
So you get other agents,
Yes.
but the presumption is, do they have to speak to the original
No,
agent?
they don't. You think they're made? Do you remember if you were? I went to someone's house for Vort for his son. He says, "Rabbi, I want to show you something." Brings me into the room. He sees my name is there. I don't remember. I happen to have a good memory. I don't remember that I said. I don't know.
That's a good question. How could two people sign a ksuba that a marriage took place?
No, they just know. It says in Kesuba that we do know these two people are living in the town are married.
It's a different language.
It's a different language. We do know that they're married and
That they're living as husband and
wife, and the Kesuba was lost. And
Well, your wife lost the original ksuba?
No, it wasn't mine. I signed it for someone else. The guy lost his ksuba.
yeah. I just got a phone call, a newlywed. I don't make a new Kesuba right away, because I used to make Kesubas, and then Rabbi found it. So I wait. What?
They can't live together.
But the Kesuba is someplace. We Ashkenaz, Sfardi is a problem. We Ashkenazim are much more makel because we have a Chaydim Ben Gershon. He cannot divorce it just like that.
So let me ask you a question. I had a story by me that a family, the parents are from, the daughter is absolutely not from. She agreed to have a kosher wedding, go to mikveh, everything right, kosher Eidim, but refused to allow that her friends should not sign the ksuba. That was a deal breaker. So the father came to me and said, "I want my daughter to have a kosher chuppah." All her friends had her sign the ksuba. She wants her friends to sign one. And she'll walk away from the whole deal, and it won't be a kosher chasna.
If you would ask me,
Around, and I want to know your opinion.
I would have told you.
Don't do it.
I would have told you, don't make a kosher wedding, because you know what happens. 50% of these things turn out to divorce, and they never have kosher get.
No, I make sure they get kosher gets.
How can you make sure?
No, I don't. I can't guarantee it, but
Yeah.
I usually.
If you, I found many often I have a real mums in the community, because the mother was never frum, and someone made the wedding, a frum wedding. She never took a get. They got separated. She got just a little. Never took a get, and then she, moved in with someone
You're
else.
against us making any kosher ksuba.
If they're not
They-
from,
No, they're non-from people.
Yeah, why do you make it? Because the bottom line is that 50% get divorced in the secular world. How many of them gets kosher get? Very few. Very few.
Okay, so the question is.
No, but I have a question. So someone told me when they get to that ksuba.
She should have two kosher.
A fake one that I wrote at the bottom ksuba
No.
zuba shem noi, and it was just a fake one, and then I have kosher one with kosher aid.
You could have made two Edom write the first sign, two kosher Edom, and then say, there's a nusach here, Shar Edom, the Persians. I was at a Persian wedding. Everyone signs, right? You're Persian? What did you say?
I had 2 weddings.
No, but I'm saying Persian wedding, not yours. I was at a Persian wedding, and all of a sudden, I see everyone signing. I said, what's going on? You don't know, but the Persians, everyone signs the Kesuba.
What is it?
So so he said, I asked the Rabbi, what do you do? So I said, he asked me, what should I do? That's the meaning in the old country. So I said to him, you should write into after the two kosher signature, the rest of the thing was only lemili as a nair. There's a nisach you write in. Could have had two kosher in the rest, v'shara chesimis eile lemili as a nair.
So you can do that, or you can make it parallel ksuba, one kosher, one.
Yeah, that's also okay.
So you believe that the best thing for shluchim out there for non-frum couples is just not to make a proper chasna?
You never had children coming, and the parents never got divorced. I mean, I had, unfortunately.
In worst case.
Because of the mamzerim issue, right?
Mamzerim
That's-
issue.
that's specific.
Yeah, I don't.
Worst case
Meaning if they were never married halacha,
So,
then they get divorced. So she goes and gets married again, big deal.
That's Moshe Feinstein Center, no? That why there's not, I thought he has a thing that why all these people in the United States are getting not kosher divorces. He said originally they never got kosher, all the Reform Jews.
yeah, that's not kosher. The form is not kosher, but he's saying that's what he's questioning. Should a Chabad rabbi got involved and make they're not going to be kosher, not going to be from, but should he make sure that the wedding is
We do
from?
it all day long.
Rabbi, here's another issue. I mean, if the Chabad or one of our rabbis are not doing kosher weddings purposely, and 10 years later, this couple decides to become frum.
Then you do another wedding. I know one does that.
Just don't. I don't.
Doesn't matter if they know.
I don't officiate. I've been asked often to people ask me that I should be. I used to give a sheet. There used to be a breast of a shul over here someplace. I used to give a sheet. Then there was a lady who came from, but her chasam was not going to be Shem Shabbos. She kept Shabbos, and I didn't want to make the wedding. I said, whoever's going to make the wedding, if you refuse, then it's not going to be a kosher wedding. And people know they get from. You never had from couples. The guy in my shul, he got married, and when he became from, the Chabad Rabbi made a marriage for them. When he became from, he made a regular kosher marriage. First time he got married was like a conservative form wedding, and as soon as he became from, after the first two children, the Chabad Rabbi made a real kosher wedding for them. I have made three or four weddings like that.
Ask you another question. I don't know if it's on topic or not. I get a phone call, a couple in New York. The husband was fighting the wife and sleeping around. He sees a diary in her coat pocket. This happened a few weeks ago. He opens up the diary. She's Prussian writing about physical relationships she's had with two different men in the neighborhood. Is that considered knowledge or?
For lady, isha she'omris tmeya niloch is einen amanis.
Ain't an eminent. It's only, so then how do you get that a woman that
Is that the
is not believed?
Shad Billy, because what it says, and every
Then
woman,
how do you qualify?
only if people saw her. That-
People saw the mice.
no, they saw this. They saw the hugging and kissing. They saw something.
Physical contact.
Physical contact. It's very small. But just because she wrote, she could have planted it. Who writes in a diary nowadays? Everything is in the computer. I guarantee she wrote it because she wanted her husband to see. She wants out of the marriage. Chazal said, Isham Tmeini Nemanis. Finished.
You said last week, I don't know if I was here, about what if the date was wrong. You said right now they're missing a 3, but let's say one day off in Shmashos is not.
So it depends. There's sometimes it's possible, sometimes not. Depends. If the date was made early, okay, you write the Kesuba date. I was at a wedding, and a stunning Kesuba, talking about artistic Kesuba. It was Sunday, and the guy wrote in Sunday by date, and it was Sunday night wedding in the winter. I come to the wedding, and I came 5:36. It was dark already, and it says there. I said, you can't write the Kesuba. The chassan was so upset, crying.
But there's different opinions about what they.
No, that was clear. If once,
Not put a date at all.
if you made the Kabbalah Kinyan before, the wedding was called for 6:30. It was winter, and the guy who wrote it, you're getting married Sunday, so wrote Sunday's date by day.
And then you can't use that at all.
Can't use that at all.
Let's say they wrote it, and then by the time you got to the Chupa and whatever.
So then it's okay with Paskin. That since you become a Kinyan, or you by some Indian, that's okay.
How about the names? Let's say somebody
Oh, if they
has-
were Makabal Kenyan during the day.
That's okay.
Fine, by the Kabbalah Spana.
Let's go on Spana.
Let's say the name, the people have English names, Hebrew names, and then.
So by Kesuba is not a get. As soon as you get any name correct, it's okay. It's not a get.
I don't know if you addressed this last week.
1 second. Any name, if they, whatever the name is, Carol or the Kosara, either one is okay.
I don't know if you addressed this last week, but why do we still write Psulta in the Kesuba, knowing what's going on?
Yeah, because you write Psulta. If she's not a Psula, you don't write Psulta. You don't call, I said it last week.
So there's these young in the frum world and so forth.
If she know,
Husband knows it's okay.
if he knows, then it's okay.
But if he doesn't know.
Doesn't know, it's a problem. Yeah.
So why do we still need it in?
Because not by the Frum people, it doesn't. It's a Psula is a Psula. It's only with a non-Frum, with the modern Orthodox. I'm married. I have 8 daughters. Can I know married? Baruch Hashem.
But you said anyways, right? Kulta or something.
Yeah, if you, I had Kalas who called me up. I had a Kala. I am not a Psula. Do I have to tell the Chassan? He asked me, and she was crying bitterly. What she should do? So I mean, it should just say Kala Sadu, and I changed the Kesuba to the way that no one chaps.
But you still put it beside Sukkot, right?
Yeah, but I read it in a different way.
Did I exchange names even in the frum world?
Oh, don't say that. Frum, well, 90% of the Frum people, the true Frum people, are Psulas. It's only the modern people who are. I mean, in my community, an average 90%. A doctor, a gynecologist told me he could. A modern Orthodox doctor said to me, "I want to tell you something. That in the Frum world, it's almost 100% pseudos. He deals with the modern Orthodox. It's 100% not pseudos. That's what he told me. But he was talking about Yankov girl almost all the time. He says, Baruch Hashem. Okay.